This is Amy Poehler. My new movie, Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, is coming to theaters June 14th, and it's making me feel joy and sadness and anger, definitely some disgust, Rose, and I think a little fear. Really? But I'm also feeling these new emotions like anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and ennui.
It's what you call the boredom.
Okay, that one was weird. It's gonna be the feel everything movie of the summer. Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, only in theaters June 14th. Get tickets now.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Keep Watch Pass on the It's Not That Bad podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Now, my dear friends and listeners, do you like spandex? Because I hope you do, because we're about to talk about movies starring professional wrestlers. And here to join me for this episode is my tag team partner for life, one half of the podcast tag team champions of the basement, my lovely wife, Carrie. Carrie, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
You are dreading every time I introduce you now on a show, aren't you? You're like, what crap is he going to say now? I mean, it's sweet and all, but what crap is he going to say now?
Oh, boy.
All right. Now, I know you weren't the biggest wrestling fan growing up. So as I pitched this to you, this idea of movies starring professional wrestlers, did you regret your life choices in marrying me at that point?
Not at all. I mean, The Rock definitely made wrestling watchable.
To a point.
The Rock also made The Tooth Fairy watchable, but, you know, that's a whole other...
Is it, though? Is it really? We're going to have to revisit that one, aren't we?
Red Notice, though. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, no, there's... okay, yeah. So let me give a little background here. So when we pitched this, we clarified that the wrestler had to be part of a professional wrestling organization. It doesn't necessarily have to be WWE. It could have been AEW, it could have been TNA, it could have been Ring of Honor. So long as they are or were a professional wrestler at some point, they would have qualified. And we're going to pick 3 movies: a keep, a watch, and a pass. The keep is the title-holding champion of the world. Your watch is probably your number 1 or number 2 contender, and your pass is going to be one that gets thrown over the top rope and gets eliminated from the Battle Royale, PDQ. Before we get to our picks, though, we do have some shout-outs for this one. Oscar Creed chimed in with The Peanut Butter Falcon as his keep movie, which has Jake the Snake Roberts and Mick Foley in it. His watch is Iron Claw, which had Chavo Guerrero Jr. and Ryan Nemeth and MJF from AEW. And of course, the Iron Claw is the story of the Von Erich wrestling family. So that's kind of cool. And his pass was Nacho Libre, which actually had Silver King, real name Cesar Gonzalez, as an actor in it.
Oh, and Jack Black. That was such a great movie.
Was it though?
It was.
Not according to Oscar Creed. Ben Kiatipis chimed in with his keep as The Princess Bride, which of course had Andre the Giant. The Longest Yard remake, which had Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kevin Nash, The Great Khali, and Goldberg, and The Mummy Returns as his pass, which of course had The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Declan Collins chimed in with The Iron Claw as his keep, Ricky Stenicki as his watch film, which has John Cena, and his cut is quote unquote anything with The Rock.
Oh no.
Tell us what you really feel, Declan. Ryan Lambert chimed in. He said, I'll give you only Rock ones just for fun. His keep is Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. His watch is Baywatch, and his pass is The Tooth Fairy. So apparently he didn't make it that watchable. And the JJ Buckets YouTube channel chimed in with The Suicide Squad as his keep film, which of course had John Cena. Guardians of the Galaxy, which of course had Dave Bautista as his watch film. And he passed on The Tooth Fairy as well. So I'm starting to question your talk about The Tooth Fairy.
Okay,
here.
but The Rock in a tutu.
The Rock
and pink leotards.
What's worse, The Rock in a tutu or The Rock in his Brahma Bull spandex shorts?
I'd rather not answer that. For fear it might indict me.
The jury shall remain silent.
I choose to plead the fifth.
There's no running from this question here.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
This episode is supported by FX's Clipped, the scandalous story of the 2014 Clippers owner's racist remarks captured on tape and heard around the world. The series charts the tape's impact on a dysfunctional basketball organization striving to win against their reputation as the most cursed team in the league. Starring Lawrence Fishburne, Jackie Weaver, Cleopatra Coleman, and Ed O'Neill. FX's Clipped, streaming June 4th, only on Hulu.
Now that we've had the shoutouts, and by the way, thank you to everyone for your shoutouts, it's time to get to our picks. So, Carrie, what is your keep pick for movies starring professional wrestlers?
I am keeping Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows because of an appearance by Dave Legino, who played Fenrir Greyback.
All right.
One of the Death Eaters.
See, I knew you were going to pick a Harry Potter film.
Well, any chance I get,
right?
Obviously.
Like, listeners, you have to understand, like, I fully admit that I'm a geek. I fully admit that, I wear that sci-fi, badge of honor on my arm and proudly let my geek flag fly. However, when it comes to being a Potterhead, there is no greater wizard in this basement than my lovely wife, Carrie.
Oh, that's so nice.
Now, whether she's Slytherin or not, we're not quite sure. But still,
harsh.
It depends on what she says after watching The Tooth Fairy again. That will determine what house she is in. I'm starting to worry. She may get kicked out of Hogwarts if she says she liked it, apparently. For my keep, I wanted to not be Captain Obvious. Because if you know me, and I've mentioned this on a past episode of Keep Watch Pass before, most people would sit there and say, oh, he's going to pick They Live with Roddy Piper because he's a geek and he likes it. And yes, I do like that movie. But I didn't pick it. I didn't want to be Captain Obvious. So I'm staying in the sci-fi realm, and I'm going to give props to Dave Bautista for becoming a really solid actor and choosing some really smart roles. But I'm not picking any of the Guardians of the Galaxy films. I'm going with Blade Runner 2049. Now, I get that Dave Bautista is not in there a lot. It's in the opening fight scene between him and Ryan Gosling, but it's still Dave Bautista and it's still a smart role. And I freaking love Blade Runner 2049. I don't know if I would say it's better than the original, but it's definitely on a par with the original. And I recognize that sci-fi is a hard genre to sell at the box office, but Blade Runner 2049 lived up to what the original did and and grew from that. And holy crap, it's a great film. It's atmospheric. The set design is cool. The storyline is good. And it has everything that you need from the original, pays homage to it, it doesn't crap on the original. It's a worthy successor to the Harrison Ford 1982 film. And it's good. It's solid. And Gosling pulled it off. My watch film, and it was mentioned in the shoutouts, is The Princess Bride. I'm going to put this out there. You could argue that The Princess Bride is one of the greatest 80s films of all time. Any genre, any setting. There are people around the world who put The Princess Bride in their top 5, maybe even number 1. It is the perfect blend of fantasy, adventure, comedy, quotable dialogue, phenomenal performances, understated performances, and performances you wouldn't expect from Andre the Giant. I don't know if I can say adorable in this, but you could argue.
He's very likable.
He is so likable in this. Like, he has a charm in this. And the funny thing is, when you think about when this movie came out, right, Andre the Giant was one of the biggest faces. I'm trying to remember where this came out in relation to WrestleMania 3. Because WrestleMania 3, of course, is when Andre the Giant had that heel turn. And you had Hogan versus Andre at the Pontiac Silverdome in front of what at the time was a record WrestleMania audience. Like, for them to take Andre the Giant in this film and have him do a heel turn at the same time, and he's phenomenal in this. He's one, like this, everyone. There isn't a single bad performance in this film. Carrie Elways, this is the role for Carrie Elways. You know, no matter what anyone would say, and I would argue that the worst part of the first Saw movie is Carrie Elways. This is a phenomenal role for him. Robin Wright Penn as Buttercup, awesome. Like, everyone. Mandy Patinkin as Inigo Montoya. Like, and the minute anyone says Inigo Montoya,
you killed
hello.
My brother.
Hello.
Now prepared to die.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my brother. Prepare to die. Like, everywhere. Everywhere. There may be no more quotable line from any film than, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. This film is everything. And I'm surprised I didn't have it as my keep, but I like my sci-fi as well. Back over to you, your watch film.
Well, you know what? I agree with everything you said. I think The Princess Bride just has that nostalgia because it was always that movie. You would see the VHS along with the TV being wheeled into class, and you just knew it was going to be Princess Bride Day. Like, oh my God. However, and I had it written, I wanted to keep that as my watch, but I have sat here and changed my mind.
Wow.
Yeah. And I agree with everything you said, but I'm still going in a different direction. And that is because of John Cena and his amazingly adorable role in Playing with Fire. Like, oh my God, he went from a completely unlikable, very militant character to literally like a family man and being a father figure to these orphan children. And even though everything they put him through, like and you know what's such a great ensemble cast as well. Like I have to, and I watched it with the boys several times, and I just, my God, I love that movie.
You know what the funny thing is? Like, when you think about movies starring wrestlers, if your first thought is to go to someone like a Hulk Hogan, right, then it's going to be a very macho role. It's going to be yes, Hogan did some more family-friendly films and whatnot, but he was still Hogan in it, and wrestlers like Triple H and wrestlers like Edge, they don't necessarily branch too much outside of that persona. Although Edge is starting to branch a bit more. He, of course, was in the new Percy Jackson TV series. It's on Disney Plus. But I think with an actor like John Cena, and I say actor because, above all else, wrestlers are actors, very choreographed actors, is that John Cena really seems to be one of those guys who, he can do the action movies. And yes, he can do like the raunchy comedies and whatnot. But when he pulls off the family films, and if memory serves, I have to, please, listeners, feel free to fact check me on this. But if I remember correctly, I think John Cena actually holds the record for most Make-A-Wish child visits in the organization.
Well, he also did Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Yeah. I think there's something about John Cena in his real life persona that, makes a movie like Playing with Fire even much more acceptable. So it doesn't feel like he's playing a role. This seems more the John Cena that you might get in real life as opposed to Peacemaker. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is watching it, like you really do see just his genuine kindness.
Yeah.
And I noticed that in watching the Peacemaker series. It was almost kind of like, okay, this is John Cena as an actor, because this is absolutely probably the farthest from his actual self.
The funny thing is, even with Peacemaker in the TV series, not necessarily in the Suicide Squad. In the Suicide Squad, he was kind of like the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to the team. But in the actual series for Peacemaker, you have this character who's not supposed to be likable or anything, but he actually makes this baddie sympathetic. You actually start to feel for this character. This is what, not necessarily the anti-hero, but more the sympathetic bad character should be. Wolverine is more of an anti-hero where, like, yes, he does violent things. Like, he's the best at what he does, and what he does is not very nice, right? But when it comes to Peacemaker, he's a bad guy and he does bad guy things, but there's a loneliness and there's a heartbreaking aspect of the character, and that only comes out when you have someone like John Cena able to play that role. So I think of a role in a movie like Playing with Fire does come off very well because of John Cena and because of what he brings to the table.
I also have to give props to the My Little Pony song that was beautifully sung.
Things I never thought I would hear us talk about on this podcast. In the same breath, John Cena and My Little Pony.
John Cena and his My Little Pony t-shirt. It was about 10 sizes too small. Love it.
All right. So now we've talked about the good. We've talked about the mess. Now it's time to talk about the past. What is your movies starring professional wrestlers past film?
Oh, we're back at me.
Back to you.
Okay, well, this is going to seem so cliche because you had mentioned, it's not like we're mentioning Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, oh, because my past movie is a movie not necessarily that I would pass on the merit of it being good, bad, or indifferent. It's that I legitimately have not seen it So I'm going to pick Mr. Nanny with Hulk Hogan. And I am going to throw down the gauntlet and say, you know what? I've not seen it. I'm not sure if you've seen it or not.
I have not.
But it is a contender for It's Not That Bad.
Oh, are you calling your shot now for a future episode?
I am. It's sitting at a 6% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Wow, okay.
So, and 33% audience. So, again, with that said, we had a previous conversation about the lower of the Rotten Tomatoes score, the critics score, anything around 5.
Anything 0 to 5 is like, you need a gun to your head.
Yeah.
It's Clockwork Orange styles.
I think it can't be that bad because Hulk Hogan playing in a family friendly movie, I think that would be enjoyable to watch. I am intrigued and I am throwing down the gauntlet. I am ringing the bell and I am calling my shot. I want to see Mr. Nanny. I'm going to pass on it because I've passed this long.
I feel like we need to take that movie and do like a double feature with that and The Tooth Fairy.
Ooh, we could so do that.
We could. If we hated ourselves, we could. The thing is, I mean, there's no question. There was no bigger name in wrestling in the 80s than Hulk Hogan. It's not a far stretch to say he might have been the face of an entire industry. Yes, there were other big wrestlers at the time. Andre the Giant, of course. We talked about him for The Princess Bride. So it made perfect sense for Hulk Hogan to make the jump to the big screen. And in smaller roles, it worked. Like he appeared in Rocky 3 as Thunderlips. And in that role, in that basically it was Hulk Hogan with a different name at that point, right? And it worked well. But then you had movies like No Holds Barred, which basically he was Hulk Hogan under a different name, the same thing, right? Like this was not, he wasn't stretching his wings. So when you got to a film like Mr. Nanny, it forced him to play outside of type. And yes, there's always that idea of big, strong guys in more domesticated roles and that kind of, fish out of water kind of comedy. I personally have not seen Mr. Nanny. I'll take that challenge. We'll go down that road and do a future episode on it. I can't really comment on a film that I haven't seen, but Hulk Hogan to me is not necessarily the best actor to come out of the squared circle. So, I mean, a lot of his films might show up on most people's pass lists, unless it was a film like Rocky 3, and Rocky 3 was pretty good too. My pass is actually a DVD that we own. I want to give you the cast first. Yes, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the wrestler in question. But Sarah Michelle Gellar, Sean William Scott, Mandy Moore, Justin Timberlake, and even Kevin Smith. Talking about Southland Tales. This is, we own the DVD. We've watched it. I still don't know what the it is. I don't. The story makes no sense to me whatsoever. And I remember watching it and I'm like, wow, the drugs have kicked in. Because I don't know what the hell I'm watching. Like, it's different stories all sort of pseudo tied in together. And like, I don't know if it's based on a comic book line or not. Like, you're dropped into this world. And I don't necessarily need all backstories to be spoon-fed to me, but I'd like a little taste of what the hell is going on in the background so I have an idea of where I should be focusing. Like, this is one of those films where if we were to do an episode on It's Not That Bad, and yeah, it qualifies, I'd be sitting there going, I still don't understand. Like, we've tried. We have tried. And this is a stellar freaking cast. And it's not a Dwayne Johnson film. Like, a movie like The Rundown is a Dwayne Johnson film, right? This is more like Be Cool, just not funny in that it's an ensemble cast. And The Rock is just part of it. But it doesn't have the kind of role that Dwayne Johnson can lean into. He can be the action hero. He actually is a very funny actor. So in movies like Be Cool, his comedy plays up well. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, absolutely. Artsy, art house, ambiguous plot lines, and pseudo-drama, and for some weird reason, Justin Timberlake lip-syncing a Killer's track in the middle of it for no apparent reason whatsoever. The movie's a trip, and I'm not quite sure whether it's a good trip or a bad trip. Like, yeah, if you're going to go down this road, dear listeners, and this is my public service announcement to you all, just know that we are not responsible for the state of your mind after watching this film. And if you can figure it out, please let us know what the hell went on, because I'm still to this day not touching that DVD unless we actually have to watch it for It's Not That Bad, which now someone's going to sit there and say, I really want you to do an episode of Southland Tales. We'll do it. We won't like it. We won't like ourselves after it, but we would do it. Carrie, thank you for this. And to all of our shout outs, thank you for chiming in with your picks. Now, if you guys want to be cool like them, you can hit us up on social media at Not That Badcast or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you go to the Coming Soon page, see what the episodes that we're working on, put your picks in so we can shout you out in the show. So before we go, please, Carrie, remind our listeners what your keep, watch, and pass picks are.
I am keeping Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I am watching Playing with Fire, and I am passing continuously on Mr. Nanny until the time comes that we watch it.
Yeah, you threw that gauntlet down, and now you're gonna regret your life choice
now we
at that
have
point.
to.
Now it's on the internet to remind you.
It's out there.
Yeah. All right. My keep is Blade Runner 2049. My watch is the ever enjoyable The Princess Bride, and my pass is the ever non-understandable Southland Tales. Carrie, thank you so much for this. And to you, our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in once again to this episode of Keep, Watch, Pass on the It's Not That Bad podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.